Hello and welcome to the penultimate episode in this introduction to the Racing Rules series from the RYA. In this episode, we're joined by world-renowned race strategist and freelance coach Mark Russell. Mark is one of the leading coaches for rules expertise and is a regular columnist in Yachts and Yachting, where his articles and racing scenarios present the rules in a simple and easy to understand format. Mark is author of the best-selling RYA Tactics, which has just been released as a third edition, and he is also a member of the RYA Racing Rules Committee. Before I hand over to Mark, who's going to take us through the rules we'll commonly come across on the off-wind legs, a reminder that if you're watching this live, please ask any questions in the live chat on the right-hand side, where Mark and I will be available to answer them. If you're watching this back later, then please pop your questions in the comments box below, where we'll do our best to try and answer them. If you're enjoying this episode, then please give it a like and share it with your other sailing friends.
Thank you, Neil. Today I'm going to look at some of the common boat-on-boat situations on the run. In particular, when a boat's options are limited by the proper course rule, that's rule 17. So we're going to use the same principles introduced so far in this series, and if you've missed them, it may be worth checking out the previous RYA rules webcast first. So I'm going to start with a simple situation, gradually introduce more complexity, and I'm going to use the same process to analyze each situation. So first, I'll work out what the keep clear rule applies. At any instant, there'll always be one of those. Then we'll consider whether there are any give room rules that apply. A give room rule does not take the place of the keep clear rule. It might place some additional responsibilities on the keep clear boat or restrict the actions on the right of way boat. Finally, we'll look to see if there are any other rules that are relevant to the situation. We'll talk about Rule 14, the avoiding collision rules, and whether any boat might be exonerated from breaking a rule. It might be helpful for you to have your rule book open through the discussion, or even better, the rules app. I prefer the app for coaching because any cross references are hyperlinks. You can quickly get to the relevant definitions, and if you need further clarification, you can quickly refer to relevant world sailing cases. Here I've got two lasers heading downwind. Which boat is keep clear boat of position 2? Yes, blue is on port tack, so is keep clear boat. That's rule 10. Are there any give room rules relevant to yellow? Well, 15, acquiring right of way, is not relevant because blue's been keep clear boat for ages. But rule 16 is relevant. Yellow's right of way boat. If she changes course, rule 16 requires her to give blue room to keep clear each time she changes course. So what is room? Room is the space a boat needs in the existing conditions while maneuvering promptly in a seaman-like way. In this case, yellow does not change course, so there's no problem there. What about proper course rules? Do they apply? Certainly not in positions 1 and 2, as the boats are on opposite tacks. Yellow can pretty much sail where she wants, subject to rule 16. We can see here, here's rule 17. Yellow and blue were not on the same tack when they became overlapped, so rule 17 does not apply. So long as she complies with rule 16, yellow can sail where she wishes, just about. Okay, this time I've got a yellow 420 catching up with a blue laser. The 420 avoids rear-ending the laser by luffing up at the last minute. So which boat is keep clear boat now? Blue is keep clear boat. It's irrelevant the yellow's clear astern. The boats are on opposite tacks, so rule 10 applies, port starboard. Blue is not kept clear according to the definition, so she's broken rule 10. Are there any relevant give room rules? Again, yellow hasn't acquired right of way here. Yellow was always right of way boat, so rule 15 doesn't apply. She hasn't changed course, so rule 16 is not relevant either. Does rule 17 apply? Well, once again, no, they're on opposite tacks. It doesn't apply. Okay, here's the classic laser situation. Let's have a look at which is keep clear boat in each position. In position 1, both boats are on port tack. Blue's clear astern, therefore blue is keep clear boat. That's rule 12. But blue pulls a sail across and sails by the lee in the same direction. Who's keep clear boat now? What we need to do is decide which tack blue's on. And to do that, we'll have to check the definitions. So here goes. A boat is on a tack, starboard or port, corresponding to her windward side. Does that help? Because blue's sailing by the lee. Well, what we need to do is go and look at the definition of windward. Okay, a boat's leeward side is a side that when she's head to wind was away from the wind. However, when sailing by the lee or directly downwind, her leeward side is the side on which her mainsail lies. The other side is her windward side. There we go. So blue's leeward side is the side that her boom lies on. So blue is on starboard tack. Yellow is keep clear boat. That's rule 10. Even though blue is sailing by the lee. So are there any give room rules? Well, yes, because in jibing, blue's acquired right of way. So rule 15 says if a boat acquires right of way, she shall initially give the other boat room to keep clear, unless she acquires right of way because of the other boat's actions. I stress the initially because initially doesn't last forever. Initially means blue acquires right of way, and as soon as she does, yellow has to do something to start keeping clear. But whenever a boat acquires right of way, there's always this initial period where she has to give the other boat room to keep clear. Are there any other limitations? Well, obviously, if blue changes course, she has again to give yellow room to keep clear. That's rule 16, but she hasn't changed course, so that's okay. Any other limitations? Well, they're on opposite tacks, so rule 17 doesn't apply. Now, as there's been a collision, we do need to think about rule 14. So blue has broken rule 14 if she didn't act to avoid contact when it was clear that yellow was not keeping clear. I don't think she did. I think it was pretty obvious there was going to be a collision there. So I think that blue has broken rule 14. But you'll see in part B, as right-of-way boat, blue will be exonerated if the contact does not cause damage or injury. So as keep clear boat, yellow has broken rule 14 as well as rule 10. And because she's keep clear boat, she's not exonerated from either.
So, Mark, you talked about Rule 14 there, and blue gets exonerated because the collision didn't cause any damage. But what actually is damage?
That is a really good question, Neil, and it's not a defined term. There is a case, case 19, and they use the dictionary definition of damage. So they would ask, was the current market value of any part of the boat or the boat of a whole diminished? Or was any item of the boat or her equipment made less functional? But because it's not a defined term, my experience is that protest committees' definitions do vary a bit widely. I mean, the advice I would give is if you're the right of the way boat, do everything you can to avoid a collision and don't get into that little legal loophole.
Thanks. I guess it's also worth highlighting to people that just in the introduction to the book, it does say that where words aren't defined or don't have terms, then they should be used in the sense ordinarily understood in general or nautical use.
Yeah, exactly. I think most of the time, if they're not defined terms, then common sense leads you to pretty much the right answer. Okay, next scenario. Here's another classic club racing scenario. And we've got a laser and a RS200. So let's take it bit by bit again. So position 1, they're both on starboard tack. Yellow's clear astern, so rule 12 is the keep clear rule that applies. Clear astern, clear astead. Yellow must keep clear. Who's keep clear boat in position 2? First, we need to decide if they're overlapped. Yellow's spinnaker is in its normal position, so the boats are overlapped. They're on the same tack. Blue's windward boat, so blue is keep clear boat. Any give room rules? Yes. Yellow's acquired right of way. She acquired right of way when the boats became overlapped. So rule 15 requires her initially to give blue room to keep clear. Blue doesn't have to do anything apart from being aware that yellow's there until there's an overlap. And as before, if yellow changes course, she has to give blue room to keep clear. So I think we're happy here that yellow satisfied rule 15, didn't change course, blue didn't keep clear, and therefore blue broke rule 11. So what about rule 17? So there is rule 17. Now let's have a look at that. If a boat clear astern becomes overlapped within 2 of a hull lengths to leeward of a boat on the same tack, she shall not sail above her proper course while they remain, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So yellow has gained an overlap within 2 hull lengths of blue. So yellow is not allowed to sail her proper course. But we do need to know what her proper course is. And here we go. As Neil said a couple of weeks ago, we take the other boat referred to away and decide where yellow might have sailed to get to the next mark as quickly as possible. So that's yellow could, I think, pretty easily show, she's got an A sail, that that would be her course to get to the mark as quickly as possible. So I think I'm quite happy that yellow has not broken rule 17. Thanks, darling. Okay, next scenario. What if yellow had been another laser? Okay, so we can see what's happened here. The yellow boat's caught the blue boat. She's got an overlap to leeward. She's taken the blue boat high, so when they jibe, she's clear ahead as they're approaching the mark. So let's take this one scenario at a time again. Initially, yellow's keep clear boat. She's clear astern. Once there's an overlap, position 2, blue becomes keep clear boat. Yellow has to give initial room under rule 15. And again, when yellow alters course, she has to give room under rule 16. Yellow has established the overlap from behind within 2 hull lengths. So yellow must not sail above her proper course while the overlap exists. If this is a laser, this is not her proper course. If you took blue out of the equation, yellow would just sail straight to the mark. So yellow has broken rule 17. I think we should note here that though yellow's broken rule 17, blue remained keep clear boat. There's no exoneration available for blue if she does not keep clear, just because the other boat's sailing above a proper course. If you keep clear boat, you still have to keep clear. Okay, here we've got a similar situation, but yellow's been a little bit craftier. She's made sure in position 2 that the overlap was created while the boats are more than 2 of her hull lengths apart. So rule 17, you can see here, rule 17 doesn't apply. As long as yellow complies with the give room rules, she can tactically luff blue high of her proper course to make sure there's no overlap when they get to the mark zone. There's another solution to that. Here, yellow's created the overlap from behind and within 2 hull lengths, but she could jibe twice. If you look again at rule 17, you can see that the jibing has switched off rule 17. So what I should just mention here is that there's no downwind equivalent to the tacking rule. if one boat jives, the keep clear rule that applies switches instantaneously between port starboard and windward leeward, or clear astern, clear ahead. So when yellow jives back, blue immediately becomes keep clear boat. Yellow's obviously subject to the give room rules, initially 15 and then 16, but there's no equivalent to the tacking rule. I can't help being a sailing coach, so here's blue's defense to that little trick. At position 3, all blue needs to do is do a quick luff to break the overlap. She then becomes clear ahead, then bears off, the overlap's re-established, and rule 17 applies again. So yellow has to bear off to her proper course. Here's another club race classic, and this is one that I've got caught in my RS 200. So here we go. The RS is catching the lark, gets an overlap from behind and within 2 hull lengths. Okay, the problem is that in position 1, 2, 3, 4, the lark spinnaker starts to collapse my A sail. So let's just, the question is, am I allowed to luff to refill my spinnaker? Who's clear boat in position 2? Yep, the lark. Yep, windward leeward. So the RS has to give initial room and also room if he changes course. The RS, though, has gained an overlap within 2 hull lengths, so must not sail above her proper course. And that's all fine to position 3. But you can see at 3, the RS spinnaker has collapsed, and the RS wants to luff to fill his kite. If she does luff, she'll have broken rule 17. Think about proper course. If the lark wasn't there, that would definitely not be the RS's proper course. So the RS is not, just because his spinnaker collapses, the RS is not allowed to sail above his proper course to refill it. You have to take away the other boat affected to decide what the proper course would be. And that is exactly what the last part of rule 17's for. So when yellow luffed there, he was overlapped to leeward, and he had gained the overlap within 2 hull lengths. So was he allowed to sail above his proper course to do that? And the answer is yes. This rule, where we go, unless in doing so, she promptly sails astern of the other boat. So even though yellow is subject to rule 17 in position 2, she's allowed to luff above her proper course if she sails promptly astern of the other boat. So now let's look at a position where rule 17 doesn't apply. Okay, here the leeward boat didn't become overlap from clear astern, so rule 17 doesn't apply in positions 1 to 4. Rule 15 doesn't apply because red was always right of way boat. First of all, they were clear ahead, and then they were leeward boat. So red's not restricted by rule 17. She can defend by luffing blue as far as she wants, subject to rule 16. Any time red changes course, she must give blue room to keep clear. One thing I should say is red does need a sporting reason to luff blue, or she risks breaking the fundamental rule, rule 2. I do remember many years ago telling someone I was luffing them because I didn't like them. Now, I'm not sure that that complied with recognised principles of sportsmanship and fair play, so there has to be a sporting reason. Now, let's just use the normal process to work out what happens if blue gets clear ahead. So at position 3, blue's windward boat must keep clear, rule 11. If red alters course, you must give blue room to keep clear, rule 16. At position 4, blue's broken the overlap. She's clear ahead on the same tack, so red is now keep clear boat. At position 5, red has gained an overlap from clear astern, so is now subject to rule 17. She must not sail above proper course, and as before, blue is keep clear boat. So, okay, so I hope that those 11 scenarios give you the tools to analyze your running rules situations. I'm going to finish off by showing you just how useful the casebook can be if you're not sure about the interpretation of a rule or a definition. So we've talked a lot about proper course in this session, and my question was, how proper does my proper course need to be? If, for example, I choose not to fly my symmetric spinnaker and have to sail a higher course as a result, is this still my proper course? So I can check out the World Sailing cases directly from the app or from the World Sailing website. And as Neil mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we also have our own RYA casebook that's available as a download on the RYA website. And both of those are fantastic resources for getting to the bottom of tricky situations. So a quick scroll through the World Sailing cases suggested that this one might help me. And so I can go into that, and here I find that, and here I see that the leeward boat's proper course is the one appropriate to the sail plan she's using at the time. So if Red doesn't want to put the spinnaker up and has to sail a higher course as a result, then that's still her proper course. Good. So that's me done with the run. Here's a quick summary. First, when boats come together, there's always a keep clear rule that will apply. And on the run, that will normally be port starboard, windward leeward, or clear astern, clear ahead. If a right-of-way boat acquires right-of-way, or a right-of-way boat changes course, one of the give room rules will also apply, Rule 15 or Rule 16. If a boat gains an overlap to leeward of another on the same tack within 2 of her hull lengths, the proper course rule will apply to the leeward boat. And to work out the leeward boat's proper course, take away the other boat, ask what might be the leeward boat's course to finish as soon as possible. Remember, there may be more than one answer to that question. And as long as the leeward boat has a reasonable reason that doesn't involve the windward boat, she's probably okay. Finally, even if the leeward boat breaks Rule 17, the keep clear rules continued to apply. So that's all from me now. We're around to answer any questions, and the next week's thrilling instalment will be John Napier, who will be looking at the mark rounding rules in more detail.
Thank you, Mark. I hope you all found this episode informative and you're now confident in when you can and can't sail above your proper course. As always, if you have any feedback or suggestions for what we should cover in future series, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with us by email, racingrules@rya.org.uk. Mark referred to the World Sailing app throughout his presentation. The app, which is a partnership between World Sailing and the RYA, is available through the App Store for Apple users or Google Play for Android users. The integrated ebook within the app cleverly links the rules with the related World Sailing cases and calls and the RYA cases. It also incorporates the translated texts and national prescriptions for a range of countries. As any new cases or changes are published, they are automatically updated on the app. Our final episode for this series will be presented by John Napier, where he will recap the markroom rules introduced by Chris Atkins in the previous episode and go into some of the more complex scenarios we may encounter at marks. I hope you are able to join John and I for the next episode. Thank you. Goodbye.